It's time now for French Connections, our weekly look at the intricacies of life here in France. This week, we're going to focus on a touchy subject that's been in the spotlight over the recent months. Allegations of an increase in police violence. Flo, thank you so much for being with us.
That's right, Sanam. Now, until recently, allegations of police violence have really been contained to the banlieues, these suburbs outside of big cities in France. But recently, it really came to the forefront when the Yellow Vest protest movement kicked off. So this was in October 2018. Since then, hundreds of people have been seriously injured in clashes with police, dozens maimed for life. And it's not just demonstrations and crowd control, though. There have also been recent incidents of people being seriously injured or even dying during heavy-handed arrests by the police. It seems like there's been an increase in what is known as les bavures policières. It's our expression du jour. This is essentially a police error, a police blunder.
Now, of course, policing here in France is very much under scrutiny, Flo. But are things really worse than before if we compare them?
Well, if you talk to sociologists, they'll say, look, if you compare today to, say, 100 years ago, no, the police is not more brutal than before. What's changed is that police violence has become a lot more visible, and this thanks to the widespread use of smartphones, where incidents caught on tape will go viral, and essentially all this has really brought the issue into the collective consciousness. That being said, though, there also has been an increase in investigations into police violence by what's commonly called the police of the police. You saw the acronym there, the IGPN, the Inspection Générale de la Police Nationale. For instance, if we take a look at the figures between 2018 and 2019, well, the number of investigations into allegations of police violence by this police of the police has increased by 20%.
By 20%, and of course, there are some reports saying that this started as a result of the Yellow Vest, the Gilets jaunes movement, where the use of really controversial crowd control techniques was increasing, essentially. So much so that France's police were also brought into question by the international community.
That's right. The police drew criticism from the European Parliament and the United Nations for an excessive use of force in some incidents. And one method in particular has really come to symbolize police violence in France, and you can see it here. It's the use of flashball riot guns. They're called LBDs in France, lanceurs de balles de défense. Essentially, it's a weapon that fires rubber bullets. And keep in mind that these weapons are banned in many other European countries: Austria, Ireland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, the UK, and in most German states. Now, since November 2018, they have been regularly used to essentially disperse crowds used by riot police. This alongside other things like crowd dispersing grenades and tear gas, and the weapons caused by these crowd control techniques really they have really caused a staggering number of injuries among protesters, including hundreds of head injuries, dozens of lost eyes, several severed hands, and it's really caused a lot of outrage. Let's take a listen to a Yellow Vest activist. This is Jérôme Rodriguez, who lost an eye during a demonstration.
When you see that in other European countries like Germany or Italy, authorities manage to disperse rowdy crowds with simple water cannons, why not use that system? I'm terrified by what my country and leaders are doing.
So I suppose the big question now, Flo, is how are authorities inside the country reacting to these allegations?
Well, after initially denying any wrongdoing or denying any excessive use of force, well, authorities have started weighing in on this controversial issue. For instance, the president, Emmanuel Macron, he recently said that unacceptable behavior among some officers risked undermining the credibility and dignity of the force in general, and this sparked an angry response from police unions, as you can imagine. Now, a lot of focus has been on the Interior Minister, Now, after months of unwavering support for the police, he too has started changing his tune somewhat. For instance, he kicked off the year by reminding police of their duty to exemplary behavior.
You can't trip ethics. That just makes you officers and the police look bad. When you represent law enforcement, it means you are an example. It means you stay calm, even in the face of provocation.
So far, no major policy of de-escalation as you've been describing. Meanwhile, French police are insisting that the measures that they're using, they're very much proportional. And they're actually warning that some of these images have been taken out of context.
Absolutely. Many police officers say they're fed up with what they call an anti-police sentiment in France. They say the nature of their job has really changed. Riot police, for instance, say that these days protesters come with the specific aim of fighting with the police.
It's not just thugs from rough neighborhoods. These days, even a good family man can come at us. I've been a police officer for 10 years in Paris, and I've seen things evolve in a bad direction, unfortunately.
Look, if they take away our flashball guns, our strangulation technique, or our tackling method, are police officers going to finish their mission in a tutu? That's ridiculous.
Fatigue is growing amongst the ranks of the police, even a certain amount of burnout. Keep in mind that several police officers have been wounded in these clashes with demonstrators. And the police in general has really been stretched thin in recent years. There have been these repeated demonstrations, and this in the wake of those terrorist attacks that we experienced in Paris, but in much of the country as well. And in 2019, a shocking report came out about the worryingly high suicide rate amongst French officers. On average, one suicide every 4 days. Now, what's public opinion think about this? Well, according to a recent poll, 50% of French people say they trust the police, which is actually a 3-point gain since 2015, the year of the attacks here in Paris, when the police were really seen as heroes. So the relationship between the French and the police has historically been complicated, and it certainly is being tested today.
Flo, thank you so much for those insights. Of course, if you want to watch French Connections again, you can go to our website. That's www.france24.com.